Hello and welcome back to the third part of Chatterbox, where we're joined by Queensbury Promotion CEO George Warren. George, welcome. First off, I want to ask, how's your dad? I know he's had a couple of problems with his back.
Yeah, he's well. Thanks for asking. Look, he's doing what the doctors have advised him. Back at home at the moment, doing quite a bit of physio. Just got to take it easy, but he's in good spirits, and the plan, the ambition that he's got at the moment is to be ringside for Anthony's fight, which I'm sure he will be.
No doubt. I know it's a massive fight, and he'll want to be there. Just how big is this fight? You tell me. You set it up.
I think it's certainly the biggest fight of 2023 so far. We've won that by a landslide. I can't recall a bigger fight happening this quickly off pay-per-view. I think it's a real credit to BT for making sure that we delivered this as a normal standard subscription fight. Really happy to have got it over the line. Look, it is always going to be a difficult feat when you're bringing over the caliber of fighter that Artur Beterbiev is. I mean, he's 18-0, 18 knockouts. Everyone knows how capable he is and what he's been able to achieve in the ring so far. But Anthony is the underdog, and justifiably he is the underdog, but he's a live underdog. Training is going well. I've been getting great feedback from Tunde. Tunde is very confident, and as I think I've said this before, their confidence gives us confidence in his capabilities in the fight. Everything that we can do as a promoter and as a broadcaster to help him in this case, we've done. We've got it on in his hometown in London, 28th of January, with a passionate, hopefully patriotic crowd supporting him. And I think he can do it, but it's a monumental task. But if he does it, he breaks through that barrier, becomes a world-class fighter overnight, and people will be shocked because I think he can do it.
Are you glad to have this on the normal platform rather than pay-per-view, George? Because we look at the fight the week before, Eubank and Smith, I think it's a very good fight. But when that's a pay-per-view fight, you got to be looking at Yarde and Beterbiev as being a pay-per-view as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had a debate about it, and I think ultimately for us, what was important was if we were going to invest in this opportunity for Anthony, and we hope obviously he does the business in the ring. As I say, it's a difficult night, but one that we're confident he can do, and he can upset things and get that title. But by making sure we did it on BT Sport rather than on pay-per-view, we're making sure that he's going to get an absolutely huge rating. We've got lots of promotion going on. I mean, BT did a great job over the weekend across the Manchester Derby. You couldn't ignore the fact that this fight's coming up. So for us, it's about getting Anthony seen by as many people as possible, him hopefully performing on the night. We hope being successful and winning those titles and becoming the latest British world champion. And from there, that then gives him the opportunity. It opens up massive opportunities going forward for some big nights, which will inevitably end up being, pay-per-view opportunities as well. But I think we've made the right decision this time.
I think one thing, and sometimes Anthony and I suppose Tunde as well, they get a bit of criticism about, is they seem to be mentally very strong. But I think in certain fights, that's really important. And this fight especially, because no doubt he's going to get hurt at times. I think shots that are landing on his arms are going to hurt him. Likewise, Beterbiev will feel Anthony Yarde's power. But I think more so than any other fight before, he will mentally, he'll need to be really on it for this one.
Yeah, he is. He's got to show, like I say, I mean, he's got to pick his moments to attack. If he just goes out and... everyone, for me, you look back to the Kovalev fight, and I think if you were to put any criticism of Anthony and the team that night is people were questioning, did he start that fight too late, and did he take too long to get going? For me, I'm not his training team, but for me, I don't think he can wait that long in this fight, and I think he needs to start fast. But at the same time, it needs to be composed and disciplined attacks. You can't be going out and emptying the tank in one round against a guy of the caliber of this. It's got to be composed, efficient with his works, disciplined, as I say, and picking those moments, and hopefully that power will get through and do the business. And, as I say, Anthony Yarde has the opportunity here to become a unified light heavyweight champion of the world, and he is capable of doing it. He's got to show that he's learned from perhaps some of the setbacks that he's had in his career before, and show that his training team as well as him have matured. And I think that they have, and I think that they will do it.
No, it's a very, very interesting insight. And I was gonna ask how you think Anthony Yarde wins this fight, but I think you broke it down. You broke it down comprehensively there. Now, I want to speak about the press conference, because there was an incident in the press conference I want to touch on. We saw Beterbiev punching the table. Let's run the clip and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
You punched the table. Why was that?
And if I punch him, he get injured, and no fight, is no good. And I choose to punch table. It's less demanding, Maybe table is broken, but table is table, not opponent.
I mean, it's an interesting breakdown. Do you think that shows maybe a little bit of that pent-up frustration, or is it just kind of histrionics and a bit of showboating?
I mean, look, I mean, Carl's the one with the more experience than me in these situations. Different fighters react and engage differently at press conferences and weigh-ins to others. I think it showed that he's obviously there with a determination to make sure that the underdog here is seen as the underdog, and he's the big guy in the room, and he's the one that is the world champion and has that power and that punch power. I mean, maybe there were a few things said. I spoke up at the press conference about Anthony's power, and obviously, I don't know, maybe it was that his power was being overlooked in this fight. It certainly shouldn't be, with the 18 knockouts and 18 wins. But I don't look too much into that. I think for me, the bit that you get before the fight where you can start to really feel how they're feeling about this is the weigh-in. I think that's going to be a really exciting moment to see these two squaring up, how they look on the scales and how they deal with each other when they're face to face 24 hours away from the fight.
I would agree with George to a certain extent. There are, like, people look into press conferences and even weigh-ins a little bit too much, and at times people like to think that a fight is won actually before the fight is taking place at a press conference or a weigh-in. I don't think you need to read too much into that in the slightest, really.
Right, good to know, Carl, to be fair. Now, he's going to be facing a hostile crowd. We've spoken a little bit about home advantage and whether Beterbiev will care. It is going to be a hostile crowd for Artur to come into, right?
Yeah, look, I fully expect this crowd to give Anthony the hero's welcome, to get behind him. The Brits are passionate when it comes to their boxing. They love to see a guy like Anthony who's going into this fight as the underdog and giving it his all and hopefully coming out successfully. So he's certainly going to be entering into a hostile atmosphere. And it goes back to the point that I made quite earlier on in this, is that's why it was important for us to get this on in the UK, because we've got to try all we can to help our guy get that edge. And being in front of your home fans can usually make the difference in that, or certainly can help. And I think Anthony deserves it this time. He showed what type of man he is when he took on that challenge and went down to Chatterbox to fight Sergey Kovalev. And he deserves us. He deserves our backing, and I'm just hoping it comes through and he's successful.
Could you imagine this scenario, George, where Anthony Yarde, who has lost and then defeated Lyndon Arthur, he lost to Kovalev as well. Say, for example, he does win this fight, and we know it's a difficult fight, but he does have a chance. He owns 3 world titles. He's only one more to clean up, and that would be Bivol. And if he beats Beterbiev, he probably goes into the Bivol fight as maybe a favourite. Who knows? Could you have ever imagined Anthony Yarde becoming an undisputed light heavyweight champion?
It's incredible, isn't it? And it's like that. It's what fairy tales are made of in this sport. It's why we love doing what we do, seeing young guys get these opportunities. No, I mean, Anthony turned over with barely any amateur experience. He is a consummate professional. He lives in that gym, constantly fit, trains hard, works hard. He's got a great work ethic, great personality, and would I have said when we signed him, do I expect him to potentially be an undisputed champion? I think that would have been ambitious. But I mean, when we signed him, we've always felt that he is capable of accomplishing great things, certainly becoming a world champion and performing at elite level. And I think he can do that. And we're hoping next Saturday night he's going to show that he can do that.
Carl actually caught up with Artur Beterbiev earlier this week. Let's take a look.
We know how good you are, and you've knocked everybody out that you fought. You're a unified world champion. But what is Anthony Yarde good at?
I don't know. let's repeat what he said. He said he's fast and he's young. Okay, we'll see.
He also said that you were slow, and you smiled at that. I think. Does it annoy you a little bit that when he says these things?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know why he said I'm slow, but maybe my past opponents think like this too. I don't know.
Anthony Yarde made a statement, and he said that you haven't felt punch power like he has. What do you think about that?
He think is Joe Smith is he doesn't have a good punch, and Gvozdyk doesn't have good punch.
Yeah,
I think they has a good punch.
Yeah, and the heavyweights that you fought as an amateur as well.
Yeah, I think he need thinking like more about it.
Yeah, and at the face-off, the head-to-head, it was very, very intense, which is normal. That's what happens. But you punched the table. Were you frustrated, or what was that?
I try to check his table is strong or not.
Was it strong? Yes.
Strong, yeah. It's good. I'm not 100% heated.
What happens when you fight Anthony Yarde on January 28th? Do you win the fight, and how do you win the fight?
I never did prediction for fight. I'm a very simple boxer. I just try to do my best. That's it.
Judging by that interview, you did your best to get as much out of him as possible, and he seems to be quite relaxed. He seems to be quite calm. He was smiling a lot, telling a few jokes in his own special way. Some of that frustration that we saw at the press conference, it doesn't seem to be there.
No, it didn't look like there was any. He was frustrated in the slightest. He looked, as you said, really relaxed. Do you know what I really liked about him? He was very, very humble. No sense of arrogance whatsoever about him. And we've seen much lesser fighters than him be a lot more arrogant than he is. But he seemed relaxed. I think he understands that it's not an easy fight. He knows it's a difficult fight, but I imagine Beterbiev going into any fight probably expects that at some point he's going to catch up with him and win. Full of confidence.
That's it for part 3, guys. Join us after the break for the final part of Chatterbox as George updates us on the latest with Tyson and Tommy Fury. Hello and welcome back to the final part of Chatterbox. I'm pleased to say Carl and George are still with us. Now, George, I want to jump straight into it. I know you just signed a very exciting 18-year-old heavyweight, Moses. Tell us a bit more about him.
Well, I don't have to promote this kid because everyone that knows boxing is doing that for us already. I've seen, I've not seen a reaction to a young prospect turning professional. The reaction that we're getting for Moses, it's incomparable. He is an exceptionally gifted young heavyweight that has accomplished some tremendous things in amateur boxing already. Just successful in the world youths and came out of that with the victory, which was amazing. He's someone that we've had our eye on for some time. Obviously, we work with his older brother Carol, Carol's fighting on the same bill on the Anthony Yarde card for the WBC international title that night as well. So it's going to be a really, really special night for them as brothers, both fighting on the same card with Moses debut that night. And he is a very, very special young man. I mean, it's obviously very early days, and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but he's got tremendous accolades, tremendous talent. He's fast, he's slight-footed, he's awkward, he can punch, and he's ambitious. I mean, there's a lot of things he's already been saying. You know, he wants to try and beat Mike Tyson's record, becoming the youngest ever world heavyweight champion. They're big statements to be making at 18. And when I say 18, just turned 18. So he's a very young guy. We've got to guide him right. Listen, the way he talks, what he's been able to achieve in amateur boxing so far, the sky's the limit if we do it right with him.
Moses Ituama, one to watch for sure. I'm sure all the BT boxing fans and boxing fans in general will be looking out on his career. Now, we've spoken extensively about Anthony Yarde's fight on the 28th. What else have we got coming up?
So after that, we are out at York Hall. On the 17th of February, Friday, 17th of February, live on BT Sport. David Adelaide is stepping up for his first 10-rounder, going to be fighting for the WBO European Heavyweight title against a guy called Dimitri Bezos, who's also 10-0, so 2 unbeaten heavyweights. And then for us, it's pushing on from that. We want to be challenging, seeing if we can get him in the mix for that British title later this year. Headlining that with him is Mark Chamberlain, the defence of his IBF European title on the card as well. And some of our really, really good, young, exciting prospects that BT Sports fans have been able to see as we develop them over the last couple of years. Coming up in March, we're going to be announcing this very shortly. We're going to be back at Telford with some of our local Midlands fighters, looking for Nathan Heaney to feature on that, as well as Andrew Kane. We'll be announcing that officially later this week. And then obviously then we push into April. So April's going to look very good. We've got a show at the beginning of the month in London, and we're working on something else as well. I'm going to keep tight-lipped until it's all done, but there's a couple of really interesting fights that we're looking for in April, and that doesn't include some of the bigger things going on with the likes of Tyson and Tommy, which is all the rumour mill at the moment, and I'm sure you're going to ask about.
I absolutely am going to ask about it, because the question on everyone's lips is, when and will we see Tyson Fury take on Usyk for all the belts in the not too distant future? Because I know it's the rumour mill, but where are negotiations at the moment?
Well, I'm not going to give too much away. Apart from we're all still talking and we're all still moving in a positive and the right direction. And I talk as frequently with Alex Krasuk as I do probably my own wife at the moment. So that should hopefully give an indication that we're moving in the right direction. And we hope to obviously have news very soon, and we need to get news out there quite soon as well, because we got to give Tyson his game plan and a date to focus on. And I'm sure Usyk feels the same. I mean, obviously he's been calling Tyson out with a couple of I think social media posts recently, poking a bit of fun and trying to get things going. But it's there to be done, and as I say, quietly confident that we're going to have good news for boxing fans soon.
You may not want to give this away, George, but kind of initially the dates that were mentioned were from mid-February to the beginning of March. Does that look to be pushed back now because we're in the middle of January here?
Yeah, I mean, February isn't likely, but the plan was always to try and get this fight away in the first quarter. If we're a couple of weeks back from that, I don't think anyone's gonna complain about that. And I'm obviously Tyson, I'm sure, is not going to have a problem with that himself. But at the moment, I just want to get the fight made, get it signed, get contracts executed, and then everything will be unveiled, hopefully in due course.
I have a baby on the way, like very, very soon, in the next week or 10 days. And I spoke to your dad about this, and I spoke to Kratchuk as well about it, and said, look, the later this fight can go, like the better for me, because I don't want to miss it. So you're doing me a favor, guys.
That's good. That's good. That's the reason, Carl. That's why we did it.
Thanks. Thank you.
No doubt about it. Now, you mentioned, George, of Usyk maybe sending out a few videos calling out Tyson Fury. Let's take a look at one of those. What do you think about his nickname for Tyson?
Listen, I'm not going to argue with him, and I'm certainly not going to argue with Tyson. I'll let them argue and criticise each other over nicknames. It's probably a bit of a retaliation to the Rabbit one on fight night at Tottenham in December. So that's between them. But no, look, it's all good spirited. It just shows the intent. The intent's there to make this, and believe you me, we're all working extremely hard to deliver it.
Absolutely. No, looking forward to that fight. You can't help but like them both. Two absolutely huge personalities, both great for the sport. Now, we've spoken about Tyson. I want to move on to his younger brother, Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury against Jake Paul. Are we going to see that fight ever?
Yeah, I think we will. Nothing to confirm today, but we'll hopefully have news on that very quickly.
Absolutely. Pleasure to chat with you, George. Great insight into what's coming up in the next few months in boxing. Appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.
All the best, George.